Hello, storygoers, and welcome back to another episode of Tales from the Cartridge, the video game storytelling podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Eric Penrod.
And I'm your other co-host, Ryan Bauer.
Ryan, there's a storm brewing.
There is.
We thought we were done. We were not. Snowmageddon comes again. and it's a Monday, and I think we're both tired.
Yes.
But how are you, and what have you been playing?
I'm doing pretty well. I spent the weekend at my wife's parents'. It was my mother-in-law's birthday. That was very lovely and very wonderful, but I am very tired. I didn't play anything all weekend, but I've been playing a bunch of stuff. Mostly things that apparently have twos in them. I've been playing The Last of Us Part 2, and right before I left on my trip, I was like, I you know what, there's probably a half hour left. I just finished a certain part of the game where it was like, okay, it changed over to something completely different. I was like, that was intense. I'm not sure where it's going, but that feels like an okay end point. And now I am starting again in a new place. And I was like, what is going on? There's more here.
Yep. I think I know what you're talking about.
Which is good and exciting, especially I think with some of the things it looks like they're setting up. That's been very fun. I've been enjoying that a whole lot. It's been very intense but good. Dying Light 2 a little bit. I have an old friend from high school, Dylan, who reached out and said, hey, I want to play some games. This game is on sale for $10. So I've played maybe an hour of it. It's fine. It's fun. It's mindless and spooky. You just run around and kill zombies in this big spooky open world. I don't know how far we'll get in it. But it was just, it's a fun time. And then Destiny 2, the new expansion, comes out tomorrow. Tomorrow is Lightfall. Very excited. What? Yes.
Sorry, I was cutting off as I had this image in my mind. I saw the trailer for it the other day in the PlayStation State of Play.
Yep.
Who is the creepy person with the fumes coming out of their head? That's
the witness. He is the OG bad. He is the villain of the whole thing. He is the wielder of the darkness who caused the collapse. Oh. He's coming for the witness. Coming for the traveler to destroy it. This is supposed to be the second act where we lose. Things go really, really bad. Things are gonna it is gonna be really, really intense. And then the next year expansion will, I guess, be the finale of the Light and Dark saga, they're calling it. So we're coming to the end. Bunch of really cool quality of life stuff coming. Some really good marketing. Last expansion, they kind of talked about it, but they've gone kind of all out, it feels like. And again, maybe I'm the target audience, that's why I'm seeing this so much. But videos every couple days on YouTube and all kinds of wild stuff. But it's very exciting, and they're doing some cool stuff, and they're simplifying the game and making it more friendly for people who don't have endless amounts of time, which I'm here for. The Witness, he's big and spooky, and he's got this big old other dude who's his friend as well, Callus, who's also big and spooky. But not as spooky.
I just want to say, I get why they call him the Witness. His eyes are massive and terrifying. They're freaky. I wasn't thinking much of it until I walked out. I was like, oh my god, his eyes are just way too much. It's like looking into your soul.
In the clouds, there's faces in there that look out and come forward and then vanish. It's real spooky. It's some really cool art design. He is supposed to be the Thanos level. He is more powerful. He does not care. All the other villains in Destiny are kind of over the top, kind of ridiculous, kind of silly and goofy, and I'm so big and scary, bow down to me. And the Witness is you are insignificant. I'm here for one thing, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's in a very intense, spooky way that I'm here for. So,
is he gonna be in a raid maybe? You can be able to fight him, you think? Or
I don't think we'll be able to fight him in this expansion. I think we probably will fight him in the next year's expansion. They've already announced the raid. They do 2 raids a year now. One is a new raid, and when they redo an old raid. So that raid that we did in Destiny 1 is probably going to come back this year. They're going to redo it and re-release it. The Wrath of the Machine, where you're riding on the Zamboni and you're fighting in the TV room. Yeah, that's going to probably come back.
The TV room. Yeah. Yes. I felt so dumb.
That's probably going to come back this year, probably in the summer of this year. Or the summer. Yeah, the summer. this year. So that'll be very exciting. But yeah, Destiny.
Very
Wild
cool.
Times. Yeah, exciting. But Eric, how are you? And what have you been playing?
I've been good. I'm finally getting over some colds in the house. Everyone's been sick at different times.
Everybody's
I think they're finally,
sick.
yeah, everybody's sick. It's awful. It's funny because like everyone keeps talking about this. So I'm sure I'm just another person in the cog of people that who say the same things over and over again. But it's funny because like during COVID, whenever I had masks on, you really didn't get sick very much. But now that masks are weird again, unfortunately, right? It's so easy to get sick now, and so I mean. I don't know. It's weird. But anyway, I'm fine, though. We're getting over the colds. If snow coming in, but I don't really care. It's whatever at this point. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then for what I've been playing, of course, still Breath of the Wild. I'm kind of reaching that threshold. I can go and beat Ganon at any time. I'm just trying to do little things. I was trying to explore. I never actually, this is going to sound so stupid. I played Breath of the Wild so much. I've actually never actually tamed a horse in the game. Like, I know, I just never cared enough to. I kind of liked running around and not having a horse. Like, so I finally tamed a horse, and it's been a huge pain in the butt. Like, I wish I didn't tame it. And then it died, and I was like, horses die? Like, I was totally. And then there's a horse god I never knew about that can revive your dead horse. I was like. That's what I love about Breath of the Wild is it's just there's so much I still do not know to this day. Like when my horse fell over, I was like, oh no, my horse, he'll get back up, and then he just poops, and I was like, what happened to my horse? I was like, you're kidding. And then I found out that I was like, oh, I might have to restart. I got to do an old save because I really like this horse. I mean, I don't, but I don't want to get another one. And then IGN told me that there's a horse god, and I found it, and it's pretty upsetting. It's kind of terrifying. Nothing like the other gods in the game, the goddesses. I mean. Anyway, that's why I'm
a motorcycle. Just get yourself a motorcycle.
I know. Well, see, I can't because I need to beat all the divine beasts to get the motorcycle. But I refuse to. I'm not being the divine beast this round. I'm just going to go in solo and try to beat all the versions of Ganon without doing it. So it'll be fun.
Very cool.
And then, of course, I've also been. No, of course, actually, you don't know this. At work, I've become kind of the cool therapist. Right? Like I've kind of evolved, unfortunately, beyond board games. Even though I love board games. I brought my Switch one time, and now it's just gone out of control. So I've never had, especially for all my child clients, I've never had such motivated clients before who want to do the work for that 25 minutes of Switch time. Yeah. So I've actually been playing a lot of, it's always Mario Kart a lot of times, but I have two kids right now under the age of 10 who are playing the Untitled Goose Game with me right now, which is the inspiration for today's episode. So it's been fun to kind of like vicariously live through these kids who are younger than 10 and just like love how silly it is to be this goose terrorizing these people, which I thought was just so much fun to kind of just like, again, like vicariously live through these kids as they're enjoying it. And like, it's funny because like one kid is like, if we're stuck and we don't know what to do, because I don't want to just tell the kids what to do. I just feel like it takes the fun out of it. I have them try to figure it out. The one kid goes, can you just look up how to do this? I don't really care I don't want to figure this out. I want to just experience it and move on. That's not what he says. I'm paraphrasing, but I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll look it up. And then that kid's like really trying their best to just find how to do it. It's like, no, I'll figure this out, and just kind of stares at the screen for a little bit and just like kind of sits with himself. And it's like, cool, just very different styles of playing. Nothing's wrong with that. Yeah. So it's just kind of fun to experience. So, but yeah. That's all I've been playing. I still haven't played Dead Space, but I will eventually. I'm just kind of gearing myself up. It's so spooky. Even though I heard rumors that EA is asking players if they want a Dead Space 2 or Dead Space 3, which I would be, for different reasons, I would be so happy for both those. Yeah. Dead Space 2 is my favorite of the series. It was just so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little bit more action-y, but still horror. I feel like I had no control, but also a little bit of control. Yeah. Whereas in Dead Space 1, I had no control. You know what I mean? Like, I just was constly fight or flight. When this one, in Dead Space 2, I was like, a little bit fight or flight? You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't constantly the crisis
dance to it.
And then, of course, Dead Space 3, because you and I played it in college and had a great time.
From what I've heard, like an incomprehensible story, a bunch of nonsense. But it was very, very fun. It was such a fun time to play together. Yeah.
I'll never forget, my cousin was my roommate, and I just remember it being pitch black in the room because he was trying to sleep, as one should do when they're in college.
Night,
and then I'm up with you at like 10 o'clock at night screaming in my dorm room because I'm terrified. I felt really bad now. I should reach out and apologize. Even though I don't think it was that scary looking back now. Dead Space 3 was not as scary as either of the other two. Yeah. Anyway, storygoers, we hope that you're doing well, and we hope that you enjoyed our last episode of The Last of Us episodes 1 through 5 analysis that Ryan and I did. We had a really good time doing that.
Yeah, that was very fun.
And we'll also be releasing the last 4 episodes of the season come the end of the season. So, as always, you can email us your thoughts, feelings, and perspectives to talesfromthecartridge@gmail.com. All of the E's are 3s. You can also find us on Instagram, or you can leave us a voicemail or text at our toll-free Tales from the Cartridge number at 207-494-4334. And we'll read everything on a future episode. And of course, we're still giving out stickers if you want to write in and tell us your address. I promise we will not send you anything else because I have a hard time sending anyone mail or email. I was gonna say email, but that's also true. I have a hard time emailing people back too. So, but we will send this to you. Don't be afraid that we're gonna just like spam your email or spam your mail. That would never happen. So, and then of course, if you feel in your hearts to donate to our Tales from the Cartridge Patreon for just $1, you'll get access to all of our scripts that we're slowly releasing, as well as the warm and fuzzy feelings of supporting your favorite podcast, which is 100% us. Mm-hmm. And Ryan, actually, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this, but have you seen our downloads for the month?
I know you sent me something about our downloads.
We have gone as high as we ever have in Tales of the Cartridge history in the shortest month of the year.
Oh, that's incredible.
We have gone above and beyond what we ever have done in a single month, which is just wild. I will say also, I mean, we have many listeners everywhere. Canada and Australia, especially for the outside the U.S. for us, is pretty wild. But I will say for the U.S., the West Coast loves us.
They love us.
The West Coast is just the whole West Coast is just lit up for us and for our listeners, and of course Texas as well. Shout out to Alex who wrote into us a few weeks ago. And then on the East Coast, I think New Jersey is the only one that really represents us. Not really. Everyone else, we have listeners on that side, but New Jersey is the one that, like, of the East Coast listens the most. So, which is interesting because I had a horrible time in New Jersey once. And I pretend like it's not real because I had a rough time. But I really support whoever is listening from New Jersey. Thank you so much. So pretty wild.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It's insane. That's incredible. Thanks, y'all. You're the best.
Yeah, it's super kind.
Yeah, super, super kind. Looks like we're going to have to move out west, Eric. We got to pick everything up and move out west.
I know. I told my girlfriend if we didn't have family like to worry about, we'd probably move to the West Coast. Honestly,
yeah. We've been
Washington
talking
State
about,
be sweet.
In the future, if something were to ever happen to our families where we were no longer bound to the East Coast, we would probably do the same.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, tragedy has its place in time, right? I'm going to regret saying that.
Every time a door closes, another door opens, you know?
When you lose something, that's just space to fill it with something new.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Like a whole state on the West Coast.
Tragedy where your entire family, for some reason, is gone. You move to across the country. That feels reasonable.
The Last of Us style.
Yeah,
go from Boston to wherever they go.
Wyoming.
Is it Oregon? Is it Wyoming?
That's where Jackson is, yeah. Jackson's in Wyoming.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, like, wherever they're going to the Fireflies, I forget. We shouldn't talk about this. For people who haven't listened, who haven't watched. Oh,
yeah, that's true.
I forgot, yeah. Well, it's been the show. They know they're going with the West. I just don't know where they're going.
Yeah, they just don't know. It's actually in the Midwest. It's in Salt Lake City.
Oh, that's right. It's Midwest. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Not as cool as West. All right, anyway. I'm just kidding. Ryan, today's episode is a really fun one. It's a short one, but I think it's really good. We are doing the Untitled Goose Game. And I was hoping if you would help me not talk as much and take over by giving us some of the background stuff for the game, if you don't mind.
I would love to.
Cool.
Untitled Goose Game, an incredible, super goofy game where you control a goose who is just wreaking havoc in a small... I kind of imagine English countryside town. I don't know if that's why my brain envisions that. But I think because of the folks and what they're doing. Released for Mac OS, Windows, and Switch on September 20th, 2019. There was also a multiplayer update that came out later that was very good and very exciting. Mm-hmm. And it came out on the PS4 and Xbox One in December of 2019. Developed by House, published by Panic Inc. The game directors are, I'm going to do my best here.
I'm so sorry.
Nico Disseldorp, Jack Strasser, Stuart Gispai Cook,
good job.
Michael McMaster.
McMaster,
Got it there. Yeah, some really.
It's a 4-person studio. Sorry.
Oh wow, that's everybody. That's the entire studio.
It's the whole yeah, it's the whole studio. They had a composer. I forget. I should have put their name in. But yeah, so there's really no director that I could tell. It's just these 4 people making the game together.
4 folks, power of friendship.
So yeah, do you want to go back and forth on the fun facts for the game?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right, cool. So the first thing we found is that Untitled Goose Game was developed by, like I just said, a 4-person indie studio, which is House, and they're based in Melbourne, Australia.
The game was originated from a stock photograph of a goose that an employee posted in the company's internal communications, which sparked some conversation about geese. Geese, terrifying creatures.
So scary. Mm-hmm. Ducks are cute. Geese are scary. Mm-hmm. Geese are so scary. House cited Super Mario 64, as the initial inspiration for the type of game that they hoped to build. And I want to say, too, really fast, that all these facts that we're reading is from Wikipedia because they're all sourced. So I wanted to make sure that it was accurate. Yeah. So everything we're saying is literally from Wikipedia. You can look it up if you need any more information.
It was created, House created a structure using missions with specific targets, similar to Assassinations in the Hitman style series as a joke. So you get like a list of things to do, but there are ththings like, spray the farmer with water, or like put his rake in the pond or something like that, which is very good.
It's so funny. I love it because as you progress, they put up the no goose signs. Mm-hmm. They started to put those out, and it's just so funny how it turns out. So the team opted for an English village as the setting, as its, quote, properness, unquote. Is that the end of what you say? Quote unquote?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Was seen as the, quote, the antithesis. Antithesis? Antithesis? Oh, crap. The antithesis of what the goose was all about. Unquote. According to developer Nico. Oh, geez, man, I should have paid attention when you said it. According to developer Nico.
Perfect. Nailed it. The name of Untitled Goose Game was sort of having to come up with a title quickly, learning that the game had been accepted at the Fantastic Arcade, part of the Fantastic Fest in Texas. Without any other ideas, used the title of the gameplay video they had applied to the submission, which stuck. Very good, the Untitled Goose Game. So perfect with the chaos of the game. Yeah, it's very good.
Ryan, what's your history with this game?
Yeah, so this is a game that I was really, when it came out, it was pretty big. It was, people were all about it and talking a lot about it, and I didn't have a Switch at the time of when it came out, I don't think, because I didn't get my Switch until like right when I got it, pretty close to when the pandemic started, because I really like the again, this, I could be misremembering all this, and I could have had a Switch in 2019, but I don't remember having a Switch when this game came out. I really didn't go play it until the multiplayer version of the game. I'd seen parts of it played, but it wasn't until the multiplayer, because I wanted to play it with my partner. So once we waited, when it came to Switch with that multiplayer, we both dived in and played it, and it was a very fun time playing a couple of terrifying geese in the village. It's a very, very good game. It was very fun to just cause chaos, but it's a really good time. It's a good game. Just the freedom and the kind of openness allows for just really fun. It's just fun to be in that space and just to cause horror and terror to this small village.
Yeah. I love how it's just meaningless terror. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so silly.
Yeah.
Like, no one's really getting hurt in the idea of, like, it's just more pestering than anything.
Yep.
Which is so funny. It's so different than Hitman, right? You're literally killing people in Hitman, whereas in this, like, you're just upsetting people a lot. Yeah. I mean, for me, I played this one, I think, when it first came out with my partner, and actually, I had her play while I kind of watched, and I think I took over control a little bit every now and then when she didn't want to play anymore, but we kind of just helped each other figure out how to get through these challenges, and that was, like, the fun part, was figuring that together. And then now I get to experience it through the multiplayer, which I never got to do before with my clients at work now. So yeah, I'm kind of doing I got the whole experience, which is a lot of fun. And I forgot, between 2019 and 2023, I've forgotten a lot of, like, ways to accomplish the goals. So it's like kind of playing it for the first time again. So it's just kind of cool to kind of play again. I think the multiplayer is a really cool add-on. They did a great job. So I'm very excited to talk more about it. But I will say, too, just as a preface for the game, before we just jump into the story, I was really back and forth as I was writing the script. I was back and forth on, like, should this be a bedtime story? Should this be a regular story, even though it's shorter? And I came up to the conclusion, obviously, to do it as a regular story, because I thought that with the sound effects in it, it'd be really funny, like more like some comedy and some humor behind it. And also, I try really hard to do my best Sir David Attenborough, impression. Because I kind of saw this as like a BBC documentary of geese in a way, which I thought was really funny to think about. I will say to get inspiration or to kind of practice my David Attenborough voice, I kept watching videos online of to kind of practice this voice, and every time I was trying to avoid it. Every time it's just be about like animal mothers abandoning their children. It was just like really bumming me out. It's still the opposite of Untitled Goose Game. So I just want to show how much I tried. So I kind of want to put
the trauma you endured to bring this to the people. Yeah.
I was like, take your kid back. And here we go. So, but yeah, anyway, we hope you enjoyed the story, but without further ado, Ryan, is there anything else you want to say before we jump in?
No, I'm so excited to hear this David Attenborough voice and to go through the story with you.
Oh, perfect. All right, and then we're not gonna. The story is so short, we're not gonna have a discussion in the middle. We're just gonna talk about it at the end, because it just feels silly to stop in the middle.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see you at the end.
See ya. Let's start the show. I guess. I don't know.
Welcome to a new journey. One in which we will witness the wonder and majesty of a goose. Emerging from the bushes, the goose stands tall and proud. White-feathered and sporting orange feet and bill. The goose displays its nimbleness by ducking under a fallen tree on the path it wanders on. The goose sees an abandoned boot on the dirty ground and picks it up with ease and drops it when bored of it. A bike, missing its front wheel, sits on a rock close by as the goose approaches. The goose appears to enjoy ringing the bell before waddling further up the path. But wait. The goose has been stopped in its webbed tracks. A locked gate blocks its path. Now we must ponder the question: is the goose smart enough to get past the wooden barricade? It inspects the gate, trying to find a way through. The goose finds the metal latch as it brings its bill to grab it, wiggling the latch in all directions until success. The goose has unlocked the gate, but it is now in danger of being crushed under the wobbling gate. The gate sways back and forth until it falls. The goose narrowly escaping its grasp. The goose honks in victory as it continues up the path. Up ahead is a small pond. The goose spreads its wings as it enters into the still waters of the pond. This pond resides within a small, quaint village. The village is populated by a small group of people who live peacefully with one another. The goose swims gracefully across the water's surface. It's absolutely stunning. But the goose hides a more sinister side. In the distance, the goose notices its first unsuspecting victim. A groundskeeper working in his meticulously maintained garden. The groundskeeper notices the goose outside of his garden's gate and chuckles to himself. The goose stares at the groundskeeper as its sinister side begins to emerge more and more. To its left is a faucet with a garden hose attached to it. The goose approaches the garden's gate and tries to enter, but is locked. The groundskeeper looks to the goose but appears to have no intention of letting it in. He watches the goose waddle over to the faucet and stands staring at it. The groundskeeper's eyes follows the hose attached as it connects to the sprinkler at his feet. Surely the goose couldn't turn the faucet on, but it does. The water from the faucet travels through the hose and shoots out of the sprinklers in the garden. The groundskeeper is now soaked. The groundskeeper runs to the garden's locked gate and opens it. He scurries to the garden's faucet to turn it off. In his quickness to stop the sprinklers, the groundskeeper does not yet realize that the goose has entered the garden. As the groundskeeper re-enters his garden, he watches as the goose is pulling carrots. The groundskeeper scurries over to shoo the goose away from his precious vegetables. He begins to pick up his carrots off the ground when he hears a peculiar noise. The groundskeeper checks his hip, but his keys are now gone. The goose is now in possession of them as he waddles away from his victim. Truly a sight to behold. The groundskeeper chases after the goose and retrieves his keys yet again. The groundskeeper has now had enough. He walks over to the other side of his garden and picks up the sign he has been meaning to put up. On the sign is a silhouette of a goose with a large red line through it. No geese are welcome in his garden anymore. He picks up his hammer and places the sign where it will be hammered into the ground as the goose approaches. The groundskeeper aims his hammer carefully, his other hand supporting the sign. As he goes to hammer his sign, disaster strikes. The groundskeeper has now hammered his own thumb. He staggers to the garden's back gate and rests his back against it. As it opens, the groundskeeper falls backwards and lands on the ground. He lays there wondering how this all happened. How did the goose cause so much chaos in such little time? While he ponders, the goose waddles past him, dragging his no geese sign away as it wanders deeper into the village. Dropping its newly acquired sign, the goose has arrived in a new part of the village, High Street. Though a street in name, there are no cars. Rather, it's a quaint area with a few shops for villagers to go to. As the goose begins to walk on High Street, a young person with his back to the goose turns to find the animal at his feet. A young boy wearing glasses and summer wear. Though one quality of this boy describes him best. He is a wimp. The wimp runs from the goose with all of his might. His legs shake as they try to carry him to safety as he dashes away from his pursuer. Looking ahead, the wimp sees an empty phone booth and enters inside. he has narrowly escaped the goose. He has avoided its wrath. For now. The goose continues down the street as it wanders into an open market. Various items are for sale, from canned goods to produce and sunglasses, even toilet paper. The goose observes the items, as if wondering what to take, until opposition approaches. An older woman with a broom, who is trying desperately to push the goose away. The goose runs to the other side of the open market and turns to face its attacker. As the shopkeeper brings the broom to the ground to push the goose out, the goose grabs the head of the broom with its mouth, tugging back and forth. Both tries to seize power from one another. As they try to pull with all of their might, a popping sound is heard. The goose has pulled the broom head from the broom. The goose walks backwards with the broom head in its mouth, as if claiming another trophy for its victory. It drags the broom head over to an open garage nearby and lets go of its prize. As the shopkeeper enters the garage, she does not know that she has just entered into a trap. As the shopkeeper turns with broom head in hand, she sees the goose standing outside of the garage. Dangling in front of the goose's face is a drawstring meant to close the garage door. The shopkeeper freezes and starts to move slowly as to not startle the animal in front of her. But she was doomed the moment she entered. The goose pulls the drawstring as the garage door shifts and begins to come down. The garage door closes, its victim trapped inside, cursing the goose. As she slams on the opposite side of the garage door, the goose waddles away, deeper into the village. The goose continues on, forward down the paved path. Backyard fences line the sides of the path as the goose continues to waddle forward. Eventually, he finds loose boards in one of the backyard fences. Seizing the opportunity, the goose takes full advantage. It creeps into the well-maintained backyard of an unsuspecting villager who is enjoying his time outside. The villager is reading the newspaper and enjoying a cup of tea as the goose walks through his backyard. This villager is a tidy neighbor. The tidy neighbor puts his newspaper down to monitor the goose, who has wandered into his backyard. The goose does not acknowledge the tidy neighbor as it waddles down through the white wooden arches and down small steps next to a small water fountain. The goose notices a small yellow string tied to the neighbor's fence. Knowing the tendencies of our goose, we are bound to know what will happen next. Yes. The goose walks over to the string and pulls it. The goose discovers a hole in the fence and proceeds to enter. He wanders into the messy backyard of the messy neighbor next door. This messy neighbor has several decorations placed in their backyard. A frog with a sun hat fishing, a miniature windmill, a bathtub and toilet with planted flowers inside of them, and even a statue of a goose with a red ribbon tied to its neck. An art easel is set up with a canvas to be painted on. A purple vase set up in front of it as inspiration. Also, in this backyard is a large golden bell, set up with a small hammer ready to strike it with the touch of a button. The goose travels to the large golden bell and notices the tidy neighbor just across the fence. The tidy neighbor is enjoying his time outside, sets his newspaper down, and grabs the warm cup of tea to enjoy it on such a perfect day. Unbeknownst to the tidy neighbor, the goose watches carefully as it stands close to the small hammer attached to the large golden bell, ready to be triggered. As the tidy neighbor puts the cup to his lips and lets in his warm tea into his mouth, the goose strikes. The strike of the bell makes the tidy neighbor shoot his tea out from his mouth. The goose walks away as the tidy neighbor turns to see who rang the massive bell. But there's no one there. The goose has moved on to cause more terror. The messy neighbor quickly turns toward the sound of the bell and runs over to see what has happened. She resets the bell and apologizes to the tidy neighbor next door. The messy neighbor returns to her art easel, only to find her goose statue with the red ribbon is now gone. She looks around for her statue, but it is nowhere to be found. Unknown to her, the goose has set another trap. As she continues to look for her statue, the messy neighbor turns to see it has returned. The red ribbon lay on the ground besides the goose. The messy neighbor approaches her goose statue with a look of confusion on her face. She bends down and carefully ties the ribbon back on her statue's neck. But the messy neighbor is about to learn that this is not her statue. The goose statue is actually the goose, now with a red ribbon tied onto it. The goose waddles away, accomplished, and sporting a fetching red ribbon on its neck. The messy neighbor and the tidy neighbor both try to collect themselves as their antagonizer scurries away. With an open door to a nearby house, the goose passes through, uninvited. It causes quite a commotion as it quickly leaves the private residence. As it travels down the road, the goose takes a left turn and finds himself at the entrance of a pub. The goose tries to enter, but is quickly shooed away. No, geese aloud. The goose tries again, but to no avail. Foiled, the goose is defeated, and its rampage has stopped. Wait. The goose has found an empty box by a yellow van meant to deliver goods. The goose approaches the box and steps inside. It carefully uses its mouth to close the folds of the box until it's mostly closed. A perfect fit. The goose sits and waits inside for her unsuspecting prey to come. Not much time passes as the chef from the pub emerges and sees the box. A look of confusion is on their face as they question why the box was left there. The chef picks up the box and takes it to the back of the pub, not knowing the horror that they have just brought in to their establishment. The chef makes it to the back and sets the box down. They have now dropped their guard at the worst moment. The goose has jumped out of the box and startled the chef to the point where they fell to the ground. The goose explores the back of the pub as the chef quickly leaves to collect themselves. The wild animal trots around the back until it finds an opening under the pub's patio and goes inside. Out of the other end, the goose comes out and walks up the patio's set of stairs as the waiter is cleaning one of the tables. The goose quickly hides under a nearby table, out of sight of the waiter. The waiter has no clue that they are being watched. Traveling under more tables, the goose finds a wooden barrel with a hole plugged by a cork. It approaches and tugs on the cork with all of its might. The waiter turns to find chaos. Liquid is spilling from the barrel as the goose runs away with the cork still in its mouth. The waiter goes to fix the barrel as the goose runs off the patio and down to see the patrons enjoying their time at the pub. An elderly man sits on a small stool on the grass as he plays his harmonica. Next to him, on the ground, is a set of throwing rings with a stand used to play a game of toss. The goose goes to examine the rings and picks one up with its mouth. The elderly man does not like this. He slowly stands to shoo the goose away. The goose drops the ring and walks away as the elderly man picks the ring up from the ground and slowly walks it back to the gate where it belongs. The elderly man looks back to sit at his stool and notices the goose. It stands next to the stool, peacefully and quiet. The elderly man thinks nothing of the goose. It is a harmless animal. He approaches the bird without fear or hesitation as he turns to sit on the stool. But the elderly man has made a terrible mistake. He has not noticed that the goose now has its mouth around one of the stool's legs, and it plans to move it. As the elderly man begins his descent to put his bum on the stool, the goose pulls the stool away. The goose walks away as the elderly man rubs his aching bum. The bird finds 2 more patrons sitting at a picnic table, talking to one another. Next to their table is a small concrete platform. The goose ascends the concrete platform and stares at the patrons, who stop talking and look at it. The patrons clap in excitement. One of them motions down, asking the goose to copy them. And it does. The goose bends down. The patrons clap once more. The other patron motions their hands back and forth to simulate flapping wings, in the hopes the goose follows suit. It does. The goose has impressed them. One patron takes the pretty yellow flower from its small vase on the table and throws it to the goose. It's an award. The goose has succeeded in impressing them. Though menacing it could be, the goose was also a charmer. Walking away with the flower in its mouth, the goose leaves the pub, out of the back gate, and travels down the village's canal. As the goose looks for more unsuspecting villagers, it arrives in a most peculiar place. A miniature model of the village. The setup is pristine. The goose walks around the model of the village, laid out on the ground. He moves through the miniature garden of the groundskeeper. The small version of High Street with its open market. The backyards of the neighbors. And even the pub. Everything is there. But the goose has noticed something immaculate. A small golden bell atop a miniature version of the village's church. It's a bell the goose desperately wants. The goose walks up to the model of the church and observes it. The bell is too high to reach. The goose stretches its neck, but its efforts are in vain. It must give up its desire for the bell. Wait. The goose has noticed something. It's a crack. A crack in the model of the church. The goose begins to peck at the crack as the model's walls begin to crumble away. The walls continue to crumble as small wooden support beams are now exposed. The goose stops pecking at the church's walls and grabs hold of a wooden beam. He begins to tug until success. The church has fallen, and with it, the bell. It is now within reach. The goose now has its prize, but it won't be easy to take it back to its home. It must now travel through the village in the same way it went through it. It runs through the miniature village in the same way it must now backtrack through the pub, the backyards, High Street, and the garden. The goose is now making its way back to the pub. The bell continues to ring from the goose's movements. Unfortunately for our feathered friend, the noise has now alerted the local villagers. The goose has made it back to the pub and goes under the patio once more. The elderly man, the waiter, and chef try to stop it, but fail. The goose has gotten away from them and has continued out of the pub's outdoor entrance. He follows the path back and goes back inside the messy neighbor's backyard. It must be quiet now, as not to alert the neighbor listening for it. The goose moves slowly through the messy backyard, but cannot find a way out as the neighbor continues to carefully search for them. The goose looks up at the fence in the very back of the backyard and finds a spot high up with an opening. Alas, there is no way up to this opening, and a beat-up dresser next to the fence has no way of being climbed up to reach the opening. But the goose has an idea. It is now all or nothing. The goose drops the bell and pulls on the one drawer in the dresser. The drawer is the only thing keeping the dresser structure, and by taking it out, the dresser collapses. The messy neighbor turns and runs to the goose as it grabs its bell. With the dresser having collapsed at a slope, the goose runs up it and through the hole in the fence. As the goose drops down, the tidy neighbor tries to grab it, but the goose races between his legs. It runs out of the open gate of the tidy neighbor's fence and continues forward to escape with its prize. It continues down the concrete path and back to High Street. The open market is now in view, but danger lurks ahead. Villagers pace the street, looking for any signs of the feathered bird. The goose wastes no efforts as it charges forward. Moving under the table of the open market, the goose jukes past the two villagers, trying to stop it. But ahead, one more villager awaits at the garden's back gate. The wimp. The young wimp stands ready to stop the goose. Courage now fuels the wimp, as this looks to be his moment to be the village's hero. However, his courage runs short. One mighty honk of the goose is all it takes to send the wimp running, as the feathered bird makes it back to the garden. Ahead of the goose is its last obstacle, the groundskeeper. He stands at the entrance of his garden, waiting for his prey. The goose knows it cannot get past him without a clever plan. The goose quickly moves to hide behind a raised garden. It is now out of view of the groundskeeper. The groundskeeper's curiosity has piqued. He moves closer to the right side of the raised garden to attempt to stop the goose in its tracks. But the goose is not there. The goose runs from the left side and runs towards the garden's gate. The groundskeeper can do nothing to stop it from taking the golden bell. The goose runs to the pond and swims back to the overgrown path we first found it. It runs through the broken gate, past the bike, missing its front tire, and back to the bush it emerged from. Though the goose has stopped, it waddles over to the small ditch near the bushes. Letting go of its bell, it falls into the ditch where several other small golden bells now lie. Another victory for the goose. The end.
Ah, what a good story. Brian,
Beautiful.
what are your thoughts on the Untitled Goose Game?
This game is wonderful in that it is like this chaotic, messy, wild experience where you're just like you said at the start, just kind of here to cause problems for these people, but not in any kind of really intense and meaningful way. And to take it then through the lens of a BBC documentary or like a Planet or South documentary is so funny. It adds such like this seriousness to it that like when up against the silliness of what's happening is just the best. The description of, you know, stealing things from the farmers and causing that chaos was just so fun. That it I think for me really elevated it in a story that I isn't super complex. It isn't super like there's not a ton happening. It allowed for you to engage with it in a new and interesting way, and for somebody who's never played will kind of get to still see the silliness and play the silliness without like, because in the game there's not really any speaking. There's not, you're just moving through the thing, people make sounds at you or yell at you and you move on and you honk a lot, which there's still a lot of honking. I appreciate that was preserved.
A lot of honking.
But yeah, it was really lovely. I really liked it.
Yeah, I think it's just such a good, cute little story, and it's so funny how the goose is just I kind of took on the way of like he's sinister, or it's sinister to be funny, you know what I mean? Because that's just in its nature, because geese seem to just be sinister in their nature, but almost like for like non-harmful reasons, like for non-harmful means. So like it was just kind of fun to have that kind of play on it, and how like the goose will never actually hurt anybody, but will just cause chaos everywhere it goes, and like it's just kind of fun how it happens. It's just so much smarter than people give it credit for, which is just a lot of fun. Yeah. It's just such a cute little story. I hope that the story made someone laugh is my main goal, I think, in this episode. Whether it's the David Attenborough impression or just the sound effects with the story. I hope that for those who didn't play it, I hope this inspires you to maybe want to play, because it's very short. It's a great time. We didn't put in everything in the game by any means. Like there's so many more things to do in this game before the end and after the game is over. You get more tasks. So I always encourage people to please try the game out if you want to. I think it's $20 right now on the Switch that I saw. Yeah. But, you know, if you don't want to play and you kind of enjoyed what this was, then cool. By all means. I think House is a cool developer. I hope they make something cool for their next game, whether it's an Untitled Goose Game 2 or whatever it might be. So yeah, I know. It's just a cute little story. I thought it was a nice way to come back to getting back on the road with our stories, or back in the groove with our stories from Luigi's Mansion. So, yeah,
it's a good one.
But
it's great.
Yeah, it was good. So, storygoers, we hope that you enjoyed this episode. As always, you can email us at talesfromthecartridge@gmail.com. All of the E's are threes. You can also find us on Instagram, or you can call us on our toll-free number of 207-494-4334, and we will read or listen to everything on a future episode. Also, don't be afraid to donate to our Patreon for just $1. Excuse me. You get your exclusive scripts, as well as the warm, fuzzy feelings of supporting just the two best guys ever. Us.
Specifically, yeah.
For those on the East Coast, up north, if you're going to be experiencing the storm, stay safe. For anyone experiencing anything negative, stay safe. We hope you're doing well. Ryan, is there anything else you want to say?
Also, folks in the East Coast, get your act together. The West Coast is kicking your butts. Start listening more. Also, be safe, I guess.
We need to open more yoga studios like California.
Yeah,
There'll be somewhere. Is that what it takes?
I think
it's all the sweating from yoga then transcends into the atmosphere, right? And this warms up. It's global warming. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
it's like natural global warming.
Yeah, it's the hot yoga. All the hot yoga is increasing the temperature of the Earth. Alexa.
Yes.
Alexa.
Alexa had some things to say about hot yoga.
Some strong feelings about hot yoga, I guess. Yeah.
Storygoers, we hope you're well and happy, healthy, and all that good stuff. And we will see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Short-term memory loss, or long-term memory loss. You know what I mean? Like, who needs it? Or who has it? I don't know what I'm talking about.